Eventually I will get a real intro and outro down, but I'm waiting for the 100th
Good.
episode because we're just listen, it's all a work in
It's
progress.
it's a work in progress.
So we were just talking about the process of, I guess, waking up from life, waking up from this experience in spirit,
Yes,
and how
absolutely.
you used a phrase about jumping off a diving board, which was so specific in that I had an old friend who used to mess with a Ouija board, which now we know how we feel about that.
Oh, yes.
But she had a large family and there was a lot of just interest in spirit to her family.
Mhm.
And you spoke with her a couple times. Anyway, I guess, the kids, they didn't have a TV or anything. They were kind of sheltered in that way. So they just filled out notebooks and they were in contact with the spirit. And he spoke about not wanting to cross over. And he spoke about feeling like he was on top of a diving board and he was just scared to jump off. And he knew that he needed to. He knew there was nothing else to do here, but that was the feeling of like that you can't
Moment.
make me.
Yeah. That's one of those moments almost like just preserved in time where you know that there is a result. There's gonna be a result from that episode. That standing on that diving board is the finality of that particular that lifetime. And that's why I was referring to it much the same as this is something that we're all going to face.
Mhm.
We talk about life, we talk about death, we talk to spirits. We've had some amazing, wonderful conversations with others, loved ones. But the realism here is at the end of the experience from one to the next, we're all going to be on that proverbial diving board, waiting, wondering, jumping, and creating the next existence. And that's scary. So when
Mhm.
you said, how do you feel about that? Well, I'm probably going to be up there. I'm afraid of heights for one thing, even though I do a lot of astral travel, which, go figure. I don't know. But I know that even when I'm up on top of that diving board, I'm hoping to say that I could just spread my arms out, let my wings fall into place and go away. But there may be that fear, that moment of, "Oh gosh, this is it. I don't remember the last jump. How is this new jump going to be?"
And I'm sure there's, even though we say it out loud all the time that like you can go in and then come back, there has to be a knowingness that if you jump, all your responsibilities and all the loves that you've had, that's going to be the same again.
Right. It's very intriguing. Hopefully, fortunately, and I say it with trepidation, none of us will experience that in the near future, like in the nearest future. But the reality is, at some point, it's going to occur. We're all going to be on that diving board, and we're all going to be making the same decision. None of us in human form that I'm aware of, at least in this particular timeline, is going to be an Enoch and just go to heaven without having to die first.
Mm.
So we all have that journey ahead of us. Some sooner than others, and hopefully we all have a long timeline.
Do you think that we've talked about the role of belief at the when the physical body no longer is the vessel of our soul. And it seems that the belief is so important because there's a set of events that occur which seem to be that there's kind of a envoy of spirit to give you an option to cross over, but there's zero thing that's going to make you or force you or declare that you must.
Right. That's right.
And if you don't believe that that's a safe thing to do to go with them, you won't. And so then we have a kind of a hyper secular climate, and it makes me really not nervous because I think the majority of us have at least been exposed to the idea of, excuse me,
Maybe.
sir, exposed to the idea of an afterlife and maybe exposed to the idea that you'd be greeted by people you love. But if you're suspicious at all and you say no to that envoy, you could get yourself into some trouble.
Well, you're right. You certainly can. And you could, because the bottom line is if you don't cross and you stay and you remain here in between, at some point there's going to be a great deal of dissatisfaction with that. And we recognized in previous conversations that that is the building and the, the creation of poltergeists.
Mhm.
So we don't want to get in the in between. We don't want to get stuck. There is something that we have been told, reminded, we have meditated and received that there's something beyond the light. However, the light appears to each and every one of us, that there's something greater than what is in the current moment, whenever that moment exists in whatever time frame. But I do see and I feel that, that people are hesitant. As you had asked how my sister was doing, I mean, my sister has 9 lives. She should have left 3 years ago. But the truth is, I'm here is there's probably something that's continuing to hold her back. In my meditations and some of my visions, I have seen that, that there is a likelihood that someone is going to meet her, at the door. That's not going to be what she's looking for. And there's a lot of fear for her with, is it my mother? Is it my father? Is it my grandmother? Is it my grandfather? Is it my brother? Who is this person or persons that will be there to help her through the threshold? And, given the fact that she's never felt safe with anyone,
Mm.
and really in the physical world that has passed, she's not safe with any of them. Who's going to take her across? So we see hesitation. We see those staying in the physical body far beyond the physical body's true existence because there is something holding them into this world, holding them firmly onto earth. And again, is that a good thing or bad thing? Well, I'm not sure the full answers, but I'm feeling that oftentimes it's not the best thing.
In mythology and stuff, they always kinda talk about that there's a cost for the ferry across or
Yeah.
something. Why because there isn't a cost, right? But where do you think that comes from?
Well, I'm going to kind of re-examine that for a moment. What I hear from my team, and I love that expression. To me, I find that brilliant because it gives again, what is gives us all a moment to think about that. So, what is the cost? And I'm going to tell you what I believe the cost is not a monetary thing, but more of emotion. And I feel the cost is to surrender.
Mhm. It's all that you were.
Yes. Surrendering, and I do love that term, and it took me a very, very long time to enjoy even the sound of that word. But if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, surrendering to what's better for you, to your highest good, is a good thing, right? The word doesn't have to take on something derogatory and, oh, you're surrendering to your husband or your spouse or your wife or whomever, your job. It's surrendering to the highest good of you, for you.
Mhm.
And I feel that the rite of passage does have a fee. You have to believe you can, to
Mm.
let it go to do so.
Do you think that there's much value in, like, just the exercise of thinking about what could be true after life, even if somebody is, like, deciding, "Hey, I am agnostic or I am atheistic, and I don't want to declare belief in anything," because realistically, I make the joke of, if we die and it's all black, I'm gonna be so irritated because 'cause I've declared that I believe these other things are true my whole life, or, but we won't know until we actually do it.
To actually do it. And that's exactly a good point. My guide, Brutus just said something that you'll get a chuckle. So I have to say it before it releases from my brain because it's not mine, right? You know how that works. So let me interrupt you just for a moment.
Yeah.
He just said it's really the equivalent of say a movie comes out. And those in the group, some will watch the previews. Some will have a working knowledge of what's at the movie theater, what the movie's going to be. Someone is going to have a working knowledge of what they believe the movie means as they watch the trailers, right? Well, is the movie any greater or any less if you haven't had a chance to preview it?
Yeah, it remains unchanged.
It remains unchanged. So, are we better to preview it? Are we better to not preview it? I guess what I'm trying to say is to you is there are those that don't ever want to think about it. And I'm like, hey, okay, that's cool.
Well, I guess I just get the control mechanism or the fear of my humanness kicks in, and I don't want people. I wish that people at least work with the ideas so that when the time comes and they pop out of their body and they're like, okay, well, I am atheistic, but there is a light right there, and that does look like my mom, and it does seem like it's my brother, like, and for that to not be foreign in its totality. Just so they're
I
less likely
understand
to
that.
shut that down and be scared of it. I don't know.
Well, and then you bring up a good point. That's exactly right. There are those that will be exactly of that. They will go and they'll go, "Wow, okay, now this is freaky. This light that everyone else talked about but me is present. What the
Yeah.
heck what did they tell me? It was on page 35 and I don't remember what the heck they said to do with the light," right? So there's going to be a lot of variances as far as knowledge, the knowledge base, with the fear base, the uncertainty base, even those that are prepared, like we just mentioned, that are like, okay, let's make it happen, are still going to have probably a momentary insecurity about when the light gets switched, right?
Well, and the
So,
thing there's a new, I remember when we first started this podcast, one of the big things that was a burr under my saddle was this red pill, blue pill thing that was happening in the younger ages. But a part of that seems to be that now there's an idea of don't go into the light, it's a trap, all this stuff, and that worries me because I don't agree with that, but it's a really hard thing to argue against because none of us do know, technically speaking, but I keep thinking, at least we understand what happens if you don't go in the light. We see
well,
what that terminates into.
exactly.
That's all we can say, and it's
And
not
that's a good
great.
point.
So, but I hate that that has taken steam, you know?
Well, and and I feel quite certain that it probably has. Now, fortunately and unfortunately, I'm a great deal older than you are, so I have a different subset of clients that are a little bit more in the frame of mind of, "Oh gosh, what is the light?
Mm.
Am I good with the light?"
Mhm.
And those that don't want to talk about the light, or they feel that it reminds me of the show. Do you remember the show? Is it under curtain number 1 or door number 2, or what
Yeah.
do you remember? Let's make a deal. That's what it was. Let's make a deal. There was always going to be one that was not any good.
Mhm.
There's the prize, you open and reveal that window or door, however you want to see it. And oh my gosh, there's heaven. I picked the right one. Yay, there I am. Oh, but wait, the next one is an old rusty bike sitting there, in the heat. I I picked the wrong one. So I'm sure there's a fear base. There's all of us would have a little bit of, okay, let's see what happens. I'm in agreement, my dear. When people are afraid to go to the light because someone else is saying, listen, it's a trap. It's a trap. Okay, trap to what? Where are you going?
Right.
What is that? What is the paradigm here? What is this? What is this trap? So
Yeah.
I don't have an answer. Bruce, you have an answer? How do we get these people to stop thinking on that level? He's saying you can't. He said
Yeah.
there will always be those that will have their experiences.
There was a there's a show called Westworld. It
Mhm.
was done very well a couple years ago, but, towards the, later seasons, it just kinda in my world, it seemed like it went off track or it just went into this really crazy place, but now it's so weird because it's really occult. So you just would have to have a bunch of knowledge about these other things to be able to view Westworld in its totality of what they're referring to. And there's this
Right.
thing called the sublime, and it's basically this subset reality where it's basically heaven and it's peace. And, there's escape valve into it, but there's those that stay behind and they try to go get everyone else who didn't make it to the sublime the first time. And you
Right.
probably see where I'm going with, right? And it
Yep.
just, it
Oh, yeah.
seems like it seems really built in that there's a lot of people who don't believe in the sublime. And so then it requires other people to say, no, like, I promise you, you do want to get on this train. I know it sounds crazy, but there's this thing over here that's nice, You just have to jump off of a really high swimming diving board.
Yeah, diving board to get there,
Good
you
luck.
know? Exactly, it's really you know how my mind works sometimes, especially on very little sleep. The first thing that came to my mind is we don't wanna be bounty hunters either.
Right.
You know what I mean? We don't wanna be the bounty hunters. We're we're in that mode of, "This is the only way, this is my way, doesn't matter what you think or feel, you're coming with me."
Yeah.
So it's really it's a very interesting topic, really, because there's the knowledge that we will gain from, again, when the light returns to us, we'll put it that way, we'll have for a short period of time, and then we'll go back into the abyss of not having the full understanding if we decide to to reinvest in another lifetime. So we don't have all the answers. We can make a lot of speculations. We can say that we believe based on our assessments of meditation and guide work. These are the factors that come into play. These are the things do you want A or B? There's a pretty light from what we've been told on A. I mean, they might even be serving ice cream. I don't know. But I'm not sure what you're going to get in B. You might just get a very lonely, existence
Mhm.
that no one hears or sees you. So it's hard.
Do the guides at the point that you are in the in between, do is there ever like a timer set with the guides are like if you don't come back, we're gonna come talk to you in like X amount of time? Or is it not really that way?
And that's a really good question because again, what we're also dealing with are two schools of thoughts about time. If
Mhm,
time is non-existent in the spiritual world and the
mhm.
person is really in the spiritual world even though they've not crossed, how does that really play out from their expectations or explanations? And I'm going to say there isn't probably a clock ticking that says, "Okay, your hour is up. You're either going to go or you're going to stay, and we're shutting the door behind us." I feel that the door remains fairly open, but it's probably, something, it's kind of like the room in the house no one goes into. I mean, we
Yeah.
could probably make a movie about the light and just have it be a room in an apartment or a room in a house that people are afraid to open because they don't know what's on the other side. They're more
But there's
familiar with
always
the
an
darkness on
awareness of
this.
it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's kinda comforting, actually.
I don't feel it's gonna be snatched from us. I don't feel that it's, time sensitive is different here than there, I'm certain, as best as certainty can be when I don't remember all that I used to know because 'cause I'm here in the physical world again. But I could pretty much feel confident in saying that that door remains open. You may not see the light from the perspective of what it was originally. And maybe the light was like, "Hey, here I am, the brightest light you'll ever see." And then after whatever period of time, the light is dimming because the light is no longer something you're looking for.
Mm.
It just becomes background noise. So I hope everyone finds their light. I hope that and quite honestly, not today, folks. Today's not not a good day for that.
No,
Okay, we're not trying to get you to practice.
no.
Okay, that's not what we're going. We don't want you to practice. I don't want to practice. I'm not gonna be there with you. At least not to my understanding for this moment. But it is something to ponder. What is it on the other side of that door? Is there a door? Is there a window? Is it a curtain? What do you perceive it to be? The cultures and the religions that believe there's a bunch of virgins on the other side. Some of you, I really hope that there are. I hope that
Right.
you find every one of them. And some of you, I hope that you find little old dirty men there instead
Right.
because you're not a good human.
Right. Imagine God. Well,
So it's
there was a question that, was asked of me, and I answered as best as I could, but I wanna ask you this question as well, and it's regarding angels, and I guess, I haven't been online as much lately, and I don't know what people are saying about angels these days, but just to kind of reassert and understand your beliefs around them, you know, we talked about that they sort of are they protect the kids, children, oftentimes, like, you've a lot of their energy is around them. But then outside of that, where do they sort of fall when it comes to interplay with us when it I guess it, morality or our life existence, especially in comparison to something like the counter side of it. So if you think about like a demon of lust, that's everywhere. And it's whispering everywhere and it's doing its thing and
Mhm.
but
Sure.
we wouldn't argue that angels have that same proliferation in our day to day, or do they?
Well, and again, that's is a little bit up for interpretation. I'm gonna give you my personal opinion from what I gathered from my experiences. First and foremost, I would love to be able to tell everybody who's listening that angels are the cutest little darn things you ever wanna see. Flowing robes, they are just beautiful. But I'd be lying to you because I've seen some pretty bizarre looking things that are angels, okay? And so, first and foremost, for us, because we like warm and fuzzy, we like things that don't frighten us. We always depict them as being these amazing, just, my gosh, billowy energies that just sing in our ear and cradle us to sleep. But they have another persona. If you're going to be an angel too, remember, you're going to have to be pretty tough and strong because there's a lot that has to be done, right? There's a lot that needs to be done. And you have to be on the mindset and on the energy that you can't really pick up someone's life and run it for them. Sometimes have to go. It's kind of like being on the football team and being on the bench, right? You're watching the players run around the field and you're going, "Oh, you bunch of idiots. You're running into each other, you're throwing the ball the wrong direction. You just hit one of your own teammates. Hello, but you're on the bench because you can't interfere on that level, right? Maybe in the
Mhm.
more significant levels, if someone gets hit too hard, then, no, it's not your day. You're not going anywhere.
Mm.
But angels have a lot of power and responsibility, and there are many layers of angels. We've talked about them from seraphim all the way down in the past, but we recognize that the angels that are here helping us are gonna look a lot different than a lot of us think they are, okay? Now, if I say, "Michael, I need you here," I'm probably going to see something with a blue energy because everybody and their dog and cat have been told that Michael's blue. I mean, I don't really know where we got that other than through historical belief systems, but is that true? Does it matter? What do they look like? Are they around us? Are they here to help us? Yes, they're certainly here to help us. They're not here to disengage us from our life and take over, but they're probably just like a lot of the mothers out there, and your kids do stupid things, you're like, "Geez, again." And you think, "Oh, I'm not gonna live through this." Well, they're probably saying the same thing about us.
Mm.
There are earth angels, and you've heard me on my soapbox about that in the past. A lot of earth angels, I mean, don't sign up to be an earth angels, okay? Unless you just really need to learn a lot of different tasks at hand, because it's not really the best job in town. Because earth angels have to experience all the crap, so they have the compassion for all of the earthbound problems,
Mhm.
right? You don't know what you don't know unless you experience it, right? So, yes, they probably get some by osmosis, but earth angels, that's you coming here, you're part angel, you're part human, you probably have a lot of knowledge about pain and suffering. And so don't go ahead and sign the dotted line unless you're ready to be either homeless or lose your job or your family. And now, not always. You'll have some good stuff up and down, but you'll have some pretty significant issues when it comes to that as well. I don't think I answered your question, did I?
No, I mean, it's no, no, no. You did, but in a roundabout way. But I guess that's exactly what I have said about it. Just because I'd say that they maintain the order and they try to maintain balance. So if things are like super, super out of order, that's under their domain, or they try to maintain almost like territorial balance.
Yes. And I know for those that are followers, if I can say that word, of our podcast, thank you very much. Some of what we say you've heard before, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, they talked about this already." But the movie Michael to me is hilarious. It's about an angel that comes to Earth, and I love this movie, and I'm going to watch it again. It's an old movie. One of these days when I actually get an hour and a half to sit and do that, I'm going to watch it because it depicts to me what I believe a lot of the angelic energies are. They're here going, "Man, these people are a bunch of dumbasses." And they're looking around and they're going, "Okay, let's help them out." And they try they're not all just playing harps.
Yeah.
If they were, then how would they identify with us? How would we understand them? Do you
Mhm.
see? So from my point of view, I feel they come in many different packages, many different looks,
Mhm.
some pretty terrifying. I mean, there's some people that would see an angel and probably go, "Oh my gosh, is that a demon?"
Right. Well, yeah, because of the way that they have to probably appear at some point in time.
Well, sure. If they come into a bad situation looking like this cute little kitten, they're not really going to have that
Are they bound so when it comes to I guess the one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is the nature of our soul and I guess the rights that we are given therein. Because I think that
okay.
they're significant, and the more I come into faith about some of them, it's nice, but I'm curious what you think about, we could argue that we are because we are soul bearing, we are not of the earth, but we would we argue that to a degree, angels technically are of the earth matrix, of the experience, and that we transcend out of it, but they would remain to concern themselves here?
Well, and that's a wonderful, wonderful question. And I do feel that that's where a lot of people get kind of lost. It's a good point. Again, we hear that the angels are all in heaven playing harps, right? That's the way they're depicted in some of the wonderful little church bulletins. They're up there having a great time. They're playing harp music, and it's just peaceful as all get out. I don't feel that's their job, probably, just they're not all musicians from my
Right.
understanding. So they would have more time spent here on the earth because this is where the trouble is, right?
Yeah.
Heaven's pretty cool, right? It probably doesn't need a good sweeping. It probably doesn't need, some changes. It's probably fairly decent. So here is where they're needed because this is where the action is.
Mhm.
So, if we could look at it in a real kind of silly sense, I mean, they're probably going, "Okay, you go. There you go. Good job.
That's what
Alright, let
I
me go clean
yeah,
up."
I completely see what you yeah, okay. 'Cause I was trying to understand the balance between their work and their role and then their counterbalances, and it did not if there's one that is disembodied and can't go anywhere and mad about it, it would make sense that the other side also wouldn't go anywhere, but wouldn't be worried about it because that's the nature of their order. They're not
To
fighting
their
the
order.
order of it all.
That's right. And also, and again, we've had this in other conversations, but I wanna remind the audience that not all angels are created equal, okay? There are some angels that will never be earthbound, that will not come here. They don't need to come here. They sit at the right hand of God, however that is to you, and they don't need to come and help humanity here. There's plenty of other angels that are assigned to us.
Mhm.
So, there's some that just don't interact with us here.
Well, you were talking about the harps, but I'm a huge firm and I'm a better person for it, but I believe in certain universal laws, and
Mhm.
someone's gotta hold those in place, and it's not us, and they're immutable.
That's
So,
right.
that's power, like, there's a governing thing
Beautiful
here,
power.
and so, when we think about whoever's doing that,
Yes.
those are also angels, and those are probably the ones
That's
we'll
right.
never
Keep doing it.
yeah, like
Yes.
and,
Keep doing it.
there was a I was rewatching The Matrix, or I wasn't rewatching, I was watching clips of it because I was just
Mhm.
I'm so impatient, I just wanna see the parts I wanna see, which are all the
The
dialogue,
Cliff
right?
Notes. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
But, they make an interesting point, and they say that all of the best programs, if they're doing their jobs right, you would never hear about them. You only
Right.
ever hear about the programs that stop doing what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
Because angels have free will too, like,
Makes perfect sense
nobody
to
says you
me.
gotta go uphold universal law. You can come down here and go become queen of that desert if you want, but it's gonna be a hard ride trying to get back to your friends. That's quite a descent of a choice.
Well, it would be quite a descent, I'm sure. I love that. And I don't wanna steer us off topic, but I wanna share something with you, and the listeners that I've found extremely intriguing. And I've never had this as an example to share until this past last few days. So, and all of the time I've been doing this, now some of the practitioners on the other side of this podcast may go, "Oh gosh, I do it all the time." But if that's the case, then just bear with me. A unique situation, and this is talking about angels and energies and, the in between that we've been referring to. I have a client. I have a new client that I find this most profound. She hasn't felt herself. And she said, "I need your help. I am angry. I am anxious. I am just, and I don't know the next anything." And so what I've realized and what I worked with and through her is that I said, you had a major, within the last 18 months, you've had a major event that almost took your life, didn't you?
Mm,
She said, "It did." She said, "I did." I was in a swimming pool and she either hit her head or when she came up, something created like an extra pressure in her chest where she felt her chest was going to explode.
no.
So they rushed her to the hospital and she was in the intensive care unit for 10 days. And so she was not herself at all. She said, "I don't know who I am." And I had seen her once upon a time, in classes, but not where I really chatted with her. And so I thought for a little bit and I got, my guides involved and I asked her team to come to me and help me. And what I recognized, and I do believe in walk-ins, but what I recognized is that someone was holding her in her body as like kind of like taking over for her. So and she lived. So it wasn't like I'm just gonna walk in your body but because she lived, there was a walk-in and she came back out of the intensive care unit. And the walk-in didn't wanna leave.
No. So then what?
Well, and I worked at it, I'm still gonna work on it some more. Well, the walk-in can't stay.
Right.
And if the walk-in is more again, if the walk-in is a spiritual energy, then the walk-in theoretically could go back to the spirit world and do whatever the spirit needs to do. But the physicality of this client, she didn't die. She's fine,
So, oh
but
my
she's
gosh,
carrying
and the veil of forgetfulness is required. So it doesn't
yes,
understand why. No. Wow. It was just trying to help out.
it was trying to help out, but then it decided to stay.
Right.
See, most walk-ins, and I've seen walk-ins, I've had some tremendous experiences with walk-ins. I had one woman who came out of 6-month coma, and she had a whole different life completely. I mean, a whole different life. And I wish I would have documented our time together because I would have loved to have done more with that because it was such a interesting dynamics. But with this one from this week, I had to coax this energy to leave her. But I
Mm,
also had to be mindful that when you take a spirit out of a body, you can't take both, right?
mm,
I can't, I'm not going to put a living, breathing client in harm's way by releasing something that was keeping her alive in a hospital.
right. Right. Exactly.
So isn't that intriguing? And I've
Yeah.
never had that, but it was very clear to me what I was dealing with. So it wasn't necessarily an attachment, like some spirit, good or bad or indifferent, is now hitching a ride. It was this spirit had come in as a walk-in to take over for a body that ended up living.
Do you feel that it's such an interesting thought to think of? Imagine that's like a standby.
Yes,
And then it's like, well,
yes,
I was promised a seat on this flight.
yeah, and here I am as an intuitive, "Sweetie, you need to move on.
It's
You cannot have this
oversold.
body. It's oversold. She is alive and well. You cannot take her. You cannot take her honor, you cannot take her life. You cannot be her." And, we worked on it, and at the end of the session, she said, "This is the best I have felt in a long, long, long time." But again, it's tricky business. We can't be arrogant enough to believe that, "Oh, one and done. We did it. Look at us go." So, I mean, I am gonna see her again, and I'm gonna check on her and make sure that she's still moving forward in her true identity, her authentic self. So I've got to get a little bit more feedback as to what her authentic self looks like in order for me to differentiate between if it's returned. So it's kind of complicated,
Yeah.
but this is a very new thing, uh, that I'm wondering if this doesn't happen more than just this one time that I've experienced it. I feel quite certain it has.
Would there be is there a version? Because when you were first started speaking about it, I thought you were essentially gonna say that the soul had fractured. Is this a situation where a soul retrieval would be helpful?
Well, I would say in other instances, yes, but her soul is there. She's there. She's fully there. She popped back in her body, and this add-on, this walk-in, is it's kind of like right. Her seat's been taken,
And it's the
and
one that's
so
causing the anger and the
yes.
malcontentedness. Okay. Wow.
And so now we gotta get her off the plane. I've gotta make sure she's not just moving to another place where she'll come and reinvest in connecting to her again. But it's very interesting because I could see it. I've seen attachments and I've seen how people's energy shifts back and forth, sometimes like a yo-yo with attachments. But hers, it wasn't like this was just an attachment that we can shoo away and, wish away, pray away, get away. We know she came because she thought she needed to keep the body alive, right? He kind of took over while she was basically in a coma as well for 10 days. But she came back and she just wants to be normal. This woman just wants her life back,
Right.
but she's different and I can see it. It was almost like half of her was one emotion, the other half of her was another emotion. And I had to be careful because I couldn't I had to figure out which one was hers.
Dang.
Very interesting.
Well, do you remember a couple months ago when I asked you if you had a spare Bible?
Do remember that.
I was
Yes.
just gonna go through it and ask my guides to reread it with me and highlight
Okay.
things that they felt was important because 'cause I'd read it so many
Okay.
times almost as an atheist, really. But I thought it would be fun to go back and read it as somebody who believes much more in spirit now than ever before. And
I love that. I really do.
I forgot that I had asked you that. I forgot even that I put that out in the universe, but for some reason I didn't wanna go buy one. Fast forward
Well,
to the Run Club.
yes.
Randomly, somebody out of nowhere had left a large Bible and a small one. And it sat on the table, and like I had made jokes about it because it'd shown up the same day that the chiropractor. So I was like, "Oh, we got a good back and a sermon." And then it stayed out in the rain, and I just thought that was weird, but I didn't want to take it. And then finally, it seemed disrespectful because it'd been rained on now a couple times. So I took it,
Right.
and I was and as I forgot, and then later I was
I
like, "Oh
love that.
my gosh, I'd asked for a Bible. Here it is." There's a bookmark in it that's copywritten for 1944. So
Wow.
it's old. Like, I don't know, whoever was reading it, super old. And, I haven't even looked, but anywho, there was, I don't know why I was trying to bring up spirit though. You were talking about, oh, the split. Oh, okay. So what I was thinking about was in sermons, they talk about the parts of us that aren't us very easily because they just say it's the devil, right? And they personify it for whatever that means, and I don't agree
Right.
entirely, but it simplifies and forgives elements of ourself because we can just other it automatically. We can just say, "Oh, that's of the devil," whatever that means.
Right.
But
Right.
if you don't prescribe to that, it's so hard to understand our psychology because you were saying, "How do we know who's her?" Well, even without an attachment of that unique nature, we
Interesting.
struggle so hard to know who's us, who's our parents'
Right.
voices, who's our ex-partner that was mean to us that we haven't let go of what they think about us.
That's right.
Oh my god, and then, and that's hard
It is
to
hard.
do on a good day.
Well, it is hard to do it a good day, and again, we're in physical realms, and I'm going to tell you, after that I felt, oh gosh, did I go down the rabbit hole? Did I lose my mind? Is this anything that makes any sense to anyone but me? And you do feel that, and I don't subscribe to the mindset that anything, as you don't either, I know, that anything unidentifiable has got to be the work of the devil.
No, right.
Just, I mean, that's kind of like what you say to 5-year-olds when you don't want them, to go in, wherever to go in the living room. You say, "Oh, I think the witch is in there."
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's mean to your kids. But but who's going to go in there, right? There's a witch there, right? So it's a mindset. It's a mind play. But yeah. So I felt actually for a moment, did I go down the rabbit hole? Is it me? Am I nuts? And I thought, well, okay, let's just keep that under check. I am gonna see this person again because I do want to see if there's a difference, and I want to see what the difference is, so I could figure out if came back or she didn't come back. But she asked my team. I said, give me something that's gonna help me to kind of feel like I'm like it. That just wasn't something bizarre. And it was funny because my next client, you'll get a kick out of this. So I had a next client and her ex-husband who came through like immediately. And I am like still trying to digest I'm trying to clear it. And I'm sitting there and her ex-husband's in spirit. He's sitting with me. And the first thing he says, "Hey, tell her she needs to get that edging done. I don't know who the new garden people are, but they're not edging and neither is the neighbor. Are you going to turn them
Wow.
in?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me tell her." It's like, I just regurgitate just like that, right? And that woman almost, like, spit out her gum. I mean, she was like, "What did you just tell me?" And I said, "Well, did you?" She goes, "Oh, I know exactly what you said." She said, "I just turned in my neighbor to the HOA because they won't edge their yard, and then I looked at my backyard and my mow guy didn't edge it either."
No.
And her husband busted her. And
That's
then he
so
said
funny.
immediately after, he goes, "And you know that little crawly dealy that's on the pool? Doesn't work. It's either blocked or the motor's gone. Now you need to go tell your husband." And I kid you not, I said to her just like that, she said, "Wow." She said, "You cannot make this stuff up." She said, "I literally text my husband before I left that the little crawly dealy on the pool isn't working.
Oh my
It was supposed to
gosh.
come on at 9:30 and it didn't." So then I thought, thank you. I've not jumped out of
You
I'm
haven't
not
lost
in
it.
the turnip crook. I haven't lost it.
Well,
So that was my validation that
but that's
we're
something
real.
so relatable. Like you and we don't talk about that enough. It's a real fast slip to feel that maybe the cheese is off the cracker.
I love that. The
You
cheese
know,
is
because and I've been through this recently because I went through a
I love
passage of a
that.
lot of fear and I had to determine, do I believe what I believe? And it took me a second because I had to go do that paperwork again. And
Yep.
oh my God. And one of the things I thought about with mediumship, again, I need my cheese to be on the cracker and I need to make sure.
I love that.
And, one of the thoughts I was revisiting about, what people say about it and the criticisms of it and all this stuff. And it's exactly this point that brings me back to where I believe that, at least till I die, this is where I believe the cheese should be. Maybe if I'm crazy, I'm crazy, but here's what I'll stand by. And it's always this. The idea would be whoever we're speaking to are not the souls of the loved ones, but of something of this construct, maybe not even negative, but something that's all seeing that could just know everything about everything. And I'm like, all right, that's an interesting argument,
Yeah, it is.
but it's exactly this that no, if you don't do this work, you don't get it. Because the
Yeah,
only things that they ever bring to us are things that validate and give love and hope to the client.
that's right.
Like
That's exactly
and
right.
so that's where
That's exactly right.
that thought never flies past is it's because you don't sit here and say the things that spirit says, talking about candy that nobody cares about except the one client. Like there's no
Except the one
value, there's
client.
nothing except that the person in front of you knows they're loved.
That's right.
Then if that's of the
Precisely.
construct, quote unquote, if that's what that means, then I'm fine with that too.
Me too. I am totally fine with
But,
that. You know, yeah, sometimes I'm just as flabbergasted as the client.
I
Like,
love that though.
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, let me tell you about this." And then before she left, I said, "That flickering light in your garage, you need to change that bulb.
Oh my god.
It's not the
Just the
fluorescent one."
handyman.
I'm like, and I thought, "Okay." And she said that's what her ex-husband would have done.
Wow.
is he would have gone around, he didn't like to fix things himself, but he would go and he said, "This needs to be done, this needs to be done, this," and that was very much his persona when he was alive. So again, wow, I was grateful. I was grateful for even though that again was another bizarre little moment there, but it helped me to come to a conclusion, or not even really a conclusion, to an understanding that day that there's a lot of things out there that we're not gonna understand. There's a lot of things that are gonna be brought to our attention that we're gonna need to share, to release, that we don't even understand ourselves, but it's our duty to give the information. That's why I'm firm believer in don't hold back. If you get something, it's gotta be shared. You may have to be delicate in the way you deliver it, but the spirit speaks.
There's a aspect of investment in, like, the gradient of, because this is something that I'd never considered, and I'm curious about you. We were on the phone one time recently because I was going through some stuff, and you asked me what I meant when I said sometimes I see out of my eyes differently. And I just said, "Well, it's a choice, and sometimes I can see and be very, very present or not." But that it's almost like I was never alone from I was always gonna be okay. It's, either my guides, there was never, like, it never felt scary. And I was reflecting on that as I kind of got back more fully in the helm, quote, unquote, like, because I remember
Mhm.
kinda getting almost like sitting back in the driver's seat and feeling like, "Okay, guys, I'm back, I'm sorry," like, and there was no weirdness around it, but it just was like, "Okay, cool, this is" right?
Right.
And then it kind of was a thing of, if we're allowed to step out so that the messages become more clear, that is also a tool of trauma. And then I thought about this, and I thought, is that not kind of beautiful? That the same thing that would allow us to potentially get, if we are willing to and able to hear our guides, would also be a natural kind of immune system when things become overwhelming. Because, like, you don't have to believe in your guides, but the moment you step out a little bit, they are able to
Right.
be heard more.
They are.
And I just
That's
thought that was
exactly
like,
right.
well, that's some silver lining.
That is a silver lining, and I agree. Again, a lot of what we share with other people affects us too. I mean, we live these moments just like you meant. I mean, that's perfect. And you're right. It's incredible to know that they have our back too. That
Man.
this is something for us as well because sometimes, we I mean, we do this on a very regular basis.
Well, and it gives me hope too, because think about let's just call it what like the pill pandemic, the opioid, like the numbing out that's really
Yes.
popular. There
Yes.
is at least, well, I'm curious, I guess maybe I should, this is not something that I know for sure. Does that give the guides a little bit of extra, like, leeway? Because if I'm kind of zonked out, does that give them the ability to sort of maybe plant ideas of self-love or plant ideas of hope, where otherwise, if I was more fully present, I'd probably be seeing the darkness and, like, seeing negative things?
I'm going to what I'm hearing you tell you is the answer is yes. Still, free will is still implemented.
Mhm.
So they can't just put in an idea and make you become that idea,
Right,
but they
right.
could enter an idea to help you to see it from a different angle. And so, yes, they would certainly be, again, very present during that time.
That's so
And that's
cool.
what you'll hear too. I mean, there's so many people that do the ayahuasca, and I don't, if you want to go do ayahuasca, I tell all my clients, I'll hear yes or no. I'm not going to, I don't have any opinion one way or the other, but I hear no, it's not good for you, or yes, it's good for you. And I go with that. But that's what that experience is supposed to be. It's supposed to be to put them in such an availability, subconsciously and consciously, where all the messages come in like they would for us, that they can hear and sense and see all the pretty pictures, and they can have that trip. And if that's the way they get the trip, I am not the person to say shame on you, but I would feel that they would. Yeah, that's when the guys would be a little bit more vocal with a lot of people.
Well, I wanna tell you about something, and I don't know, I'm gonna leave it in because it needs to be said. I don't know any details, so I hope I'm not speaking ill of people we know. But a student of mine went to a meditation circle and they served Blue Lotus tea without disclosing what that is. And then I mean, or, and I just thought my
Boy,
energy shut down.
boy.
I was I was upset because
Mhm.
I don't think
It
that's right.
Nope, if you know who that is podcast, let me know,
I
okay?
can find out.
That is an
I
unacceptable
think it's
thing.
I mean, that's the equivalent of drugging people. Now,
It's
my thought
exactly what
though
gives meditation a bad mate.
well, I mean, tell me if I'm crazy, to actually get that is really, really expensive. My gut says that probably it's what they were told that's what it was, and maybe who knows what was in it. I just
Well, and
highly
that's even worse,
that's what
actually.
I
That's
mean,
even worse.
because
Yes,
I don't think anybody is just willy-nilly sharing Blue Lotus tea. You know what I mean? Like, that's a commodity. So what are you giving these people? I
and
don't
why
know.
are you needing to say anything at all like that? Yeah, I have a problem with that. If you're gonna dabble in that, then you need to disclose that to
And it's
anybody
just a
that is going
meditation
to be with
circle
you.
that's not being marketed as anything more than that, and I don't yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, if you know that, I mean, again, off podcast because 'cause we're not trying to air everyone's dirty laundry. I would love to know
I
who
can
that is
find out, yeah, absolutely. Man.
because that's I mean, in the realism here, we're not the judge and jury, but the realism here is we've gotta keep this profession, however you wanna call it, pretty much on the up and up. Because there are many people out there that wanna shut it down and say it's witchcraft and shut it down, it's the devil's work, shut it down because they don't know anything about it. These kind of footholds are what get those ignorant people to succeed. So,
Well, I wanted to tell
wow.
you real quick,
Ah,
this was dancing in and out of telling you, but it just came back, so I want to. Do you remember my friend that, was close and then became quite religious?
yes,
Our dear friend.
absolutely.
So I
Our
get a
dear
text
friend.
message out of nowhere yesterday, and I hope, if you listen, I'm sorry. It's my podcast, we can do what we want.
Right.
And I get a message, "I love you, da, da, da." I'm like, "Great." And I'm feeling warm, and then I get the message of basically about some girl. And it wasn't said, but you see what I'm saying? You see exactly what
I
happened,
know
right?
exactly where you're going, right.
So I just gave him exactly what I felt and let it be what it was because I just thought the petty part of me is doing this because it's acknowledging that you believe in it. You know what I mean?
My gosh.
And
I
it and
and
and then I thought I could sit here and be woe is me, disappointed, or I could just giggle because it's kinda cute and funny and move on. But, like,
it's
how funny.
crazy. Well, again, it's okay, and it's okay to have a very strong opinion of someone, but when you need them, right?
Hey, little insight. Listen.
Oh my gosh. It's funny because I mean, there's always going to be those kind of people,
And I do
and there's
love
nothing
him.
wrong with, he's not, I'm not picking on him. Everyone's going to take it in, whether it's ideology, whatever, religion, whatever it is, they're going to have an opinion,
Well,
and
it's
good
all
job.
religion
But
all day until and
but
I
it means
relate,
something.
until you can't handle the insecurity when you have a crush on someone, because that is an intoxicating fear.
Well,
And then
and
you gotta
it's true,
call you or me.
yeah, who you gonna call, right?
I guess not the church today.
Not today. And again, I mean, my opinion, and there's no malice in either one of us. We're not
No,
gonna,
and I'm looking for a
but I'm right
church, like,
there.
I'm here for that. We've spoken about how that could be weaponized against us unfairly, I think.
Absolutely. Well, it's so funny because I always go back to, and this is what keeps me grounded, actually. It's kind of funny about with those that have become overly opinionated, that feel like they want to enlist take the doctrine and throw it down my throat. I'm always reminded of my one dear sweet client. I love him and her, one person, just so much, so much. And this person stopped seeing me because they've come to the conclusion I'm the work of the devil. And I really, and I just so desperately want to reach out and ask how business is on Harry Hines, if it's still busy. Um, and are they still making good money, selling drugs and prostitution?
Mhm.
But the Terry and me, well, well, there's a little ugliness in that, but the bottom line is, you see, we cherry pick emotions a lot, and I'm just very grateful that this person hasn't decided that that is of the work of the devil too, because that's their livelihood. So we'll leave it at that. But I am the work of the devil.
Well, I guess, and aren't we all then, if we're polarity as we know it?
I love it.
I think
I love it all.
do you remember the conversation that we had on the patio a long time ago with you, me, and Taylor about whether it was about being good or whether it was about being balanced?
Vaguely.
And like
We have so
just
many
the journey
wonderful
of the soul and which
conversations.
one is it?
Journey of the soul, right.
And
Okay,
Taylor
yes.
said he believed that it was about balance. That and you said you believed it was about ascension towards a trajectory of unity. So i.e. goodness, like return to unity, so to speak.
Right.
And I'm wondering, do you still feel that's true?
I'm for me, yes, and the reason why I steer in that direction is because what gives me my strength, what gives me my I believe my connections, is my desire and willingness to work for a higher good.
Yeah.
And if I'm here to work for a higher good, then I must believe that I'm working towards that for myself as well. That I have to believe that there is an ascension process.
Yeah.
And I may not be perfect because I know I'm not, but I am going to do my best to, yeah, balance is important. I get that. Totally understand that. But I have to do it for my highest good so that I can help you in your highest good. And
Mhm.
so yes, I still hold that belief.
Do you remember when I was telling you that something kinda unlocked back in March and I was just in connection a lot?
Yes, I do.
I have a suspicion that what recently has happened was a response to that, and I believe that I'm back in connection with what was before because I've
Yep.
sought that again.
Good.
Then so now the downloads are back, thank goodness, but
I love it.
I wrote this the other night, and this is not me, I'm not this smart, but this is talking kind of about what you're talking about, I think, saying that you have a role, that you believe you're gonna stand behind, something bigger, and this is what I wrote down, and it says, "You have to choose an archetype to represent in moments of value, not as yourself, but as evidence of what you believe should be present in that given moment." This should simplify decisions and behavior. It isn't about what you as a human prefer. It's about what you as a soul recognizes what is correct if you are to represent in that moment of life what you believe should be represented.
I love that.
And I'd never
I
thought of
love that.
but I think that that is makes more sense to me than having to know if I'm doing the right thing. Because it's like all I need to do is what I believe is in alignment with what I believe I stand for,
Yes.
regardless if I, as a human,
Yep.
can stand on
Yep.
that logically or not,
Right.
because it matters
Right.
what you
Well,
do.
as a human, we struggle because we're like everybody else, right? We have the insecurities, we have the, the fear, the pressure, the anger, the frustration. But when we tap into something greater, we tap into the highest part of what we can and cannot do, then that's when magic happens.
Ugh,
I love that. I'm really glad you wrote that. I would love to have a copy of that.
why
I
didn't
won't steal it from you. I promise. I'll give you
Oh,
credit
no,
for it.
they I mean, I'm just glad that they're back. I'm glad they're back. It was so it just has been a minute that I had I'm
You
thankful.
brought him back. They came back because you wanted them back.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just I'm not willing to be without that. And I realized I was feeling on top of the world. It makes sense that something would come and see if how much I was committed to that or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh,
There's a lot in this world that can interact with us, that and we have to be mindful as we go every day as to who and what we're going to communicate with.
well, I'm grateful that it's not so personal because I think that there's a lot of freedom in that and it's really really hard to like do all the things that we want to for fun if everything's so
Yes.
personal in all the other aspects. Like I didn't realize how much not fun that is again. It's just not
Yeah.
there's no time to do anything fun because 'cause you're just so focused on you and I don't know. So I'm
You're in a better place.
Yeah, thank you so much for, to you, to spirit. I always think about, you're right, you can't do it alone. There's no point in even trying. Yeah, I just am so grateful. I'm grateful to you, to your family. That's what we didn't speak about. We had family in town,
We
and
did.
that
Oh
was
my
so
gosh.
fun.
It was so amazing. I'll tell you, I loved every minute of it. It
Uh,
was the worst. I have to tell you that it's so bizarre. I've got some stuff going on with my back. I have never hurt so much as I did the week they were here. It was the worst pain. And it could, I mean, I was on my feet a lot. And I thought, okay, I could have taken it as, how dare you? Why did you do this to me? No, when I finally have a chance to take a few days off. But I didn't. I worked through that. And in the process of that week, I had the most amazing time
Good.
with my family. And we had fun. You came over, we
It
ate
was
some good
so fun.
barbecue, and we had we had fun. We had a
Yeah,
great time, and I love to see them, and I hope to see them again. I just, you know, life is all about balance. There's a
life is
lot of things. Is balance. We have to also work in the balance. And yeah, it was amazing.
well, and we'll talk more about what we've got coming up soon. I know I keep teasing it, but we got a lot going on.
Yep.
I'm trying to
A whole
connect my
lot going
brain.
on.
She's not here. She is here.
One's not here either.
She's just scrambled. But what are the classes that you've got coming up this week?
Oh, I don't even know. No, I
Look at
do.
us.
I have one class. Well, I've
So
got
see
so
you
much
next
going on.
time.
I've got Tuesday. I want to be at the DFW Crystals from 7 to 9. You can find me in Plano. It is a mediumship. It's called the Circles of Light. It's basically we're lifting the veil. It's one of my beloved classes. They're all my beloveds. I love teaching. That's Tuesday. That's this coming Tuesday. That's someday after tomorrow, right? So that's 26. And then I am in Conroe. I'm in Houston, and this coming weekend at the Wellness Expo of Conroe, and I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. And I will be doing a gallery as well on Sunday. I teach on Saturday, and I have individual appointments both days in Houston. And then I don't even know. I haven't even had a chance to look to see what else I'm up to. But those will keep me busy.
Well, never a dull moment. I'm sure you're
Never a dull
never
moment.
unscheduled.
Not usually. And I'm grateful for all of it. Keeps me young, even though you're thinking, is it really keeping you young?
Well, I mean, I would argue that it does. Do you think it saves us energy when we step out?
Yes, I do. It's funny. I really noticed that real quick. I'll tell you this real quick. I noticed that last night, because I've been blowing and going. I mean, I've been nonstop since Tuesday. And when I got home, I realized that I was like, "Oh my god, where have I been?" Almost like I just woke up from a 1 week nap.
Wow. Like
And I
that.
was like, "Oh gosh, Terry's back. Okay, here I am. I'm not schizophrenic. I know it's me."
Oh
But
my
I'm
gosh,
like,
I just
"Oh
saw
my
something in my
gosh.
head that's so funny.
Uh-oh, what, the Terry
I
Terry in a
saw
straitjacket?"
old style, like all the filing cabinets and a bunch of people trying to find stuff, and then you walking in saying, I'm back.
I like that. But I felt good coming back, but it was odd. It was like, "Okay,
Well, but all the people
what did
that
I
were tearing
miss?"
through the file, they're happy you're back too. Like, they're like, oh, she's
Well,
back.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope so. I'm happy I'm back too.
How funny.
That is funny. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Well,
Well,
it looks like then we've done it
we've done it,
and
as I'm
as
Brutus loves to
recently it's
say.
been pointed out, I'd like us to be able to return to our tagline as perhaps I've strayed, but as always, we try to
We
be
all stray from time to time, right?
right. And then we get a
We
tune
all
up
stray. That's right. Then we get a tune up.
from friends
But
and family and spirit. Thank God.
there you go. Absolutely. That's you nailed it.
So
As
love
always.
first,
Thank you, my
wisdom
dear.
second.
Love first, wisdom second. That's my excuse for everything I don't know. Love first,
Man,
wisdom second.
thank you. I'm so happy. I love you. And we'll be
I
back
love
at
you,
it
love you,
next
love
week.
you. We'll be here. That's what we do. So don't forget us.
Yay.
Listen on in and send us comments, remarks. If
Yes.
they're pleasant, we'll smile. If they're not, we'll delete you. It's up to you. Just kidding.
I love you. I love you. And I'll see you next
I love you.
week.
Love you. Bye. Bye.
Yay.